On today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, presented by FanDuel, we have the South Carolina preview. Started the show with our own kind of picks, gave some additional takes on the game. Now, with the knowledge that LaNorris Sellers is questionable on the injury report, gave just some of our initial extra thoughts because we had a really good interview with Rixon Lane over at Bleav in South Carolina. He's a South Carolina alum as well. So, started the show with our own, just Payton, Kenny, and I talking about the game, previewing it, gave all of the lines from FanDuel on the Mizzou, South Carolina game, and gave our score predictions and game MVPs for that one, plus a few extra thoughts. And then we really dove into the weeds of the game with Rixon, got a ton of good perspective on the Gamecocks from him, gave some really good takes on the rivalry as well. He had a ton of good thoughts on just how the South Carolina fan base feels about it and kind of how the game and the rivalry has kind of grown with Mizzou being in the SEC. So that was really great as well. Then finished the show with quick hits, had a ton of Ahmad Hardy awards to talk about, some good Brady Cook news as well, with him potentially being on the sideline in the Jets next game. So that's fun. And then finished off with, we had some discussion as well about the new transfer portal rule with it going to just one window in the winter. So talked about that. Finished with best beats of the week, brought to you by FanDuel, where I may have accidentally picked the Bills saying it was the Monday or Sunday night game, and it's actually Thursday. So I'll just learn my beat early. It is what it is. I did not hit last week, so I need to improve. So I picked a more sturdy team in the Bills. But we'll get to that at the end of the show. That's best beats. But a great show, good interview with Rixon. So we'll dive into it. The Unwritten Rule, South Carolina preview. Oh, by the way, Payton and I will have a recap Saturday night of the game. So stick around on that or tune in Sunday morning. When you wake up, there will be a recap, kind of instant reaction from the Mizzou, South Carolina game. So that will be on the channel as well. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those platforms. So let's dive into it. South Carolina preview starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Bleav Network, alongside Payton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, September 19th, and it is nearly that time for Mizzou's first SEC game of the season for football, and it is the Mayor's Cup. Mizzou is playing South Carolina. We had a very good interview that we're going to get to shortly over with Rixon Lane from Bleav in South Carolina. He's a South Carolina alum as well, had some very good quotes. Give a bunch of good perspective on the team, give a ton of good stuff about the rivalry too. And his take on how like the fan base and South Carolina fans like view it and stuff. So really good interview with him. So we're going to get through this beginning part, kind of quickly because we previewed most of the game with Rixon. Ton of stuff to get into. Just diving into the outlook of the game. And yeah, we talked a bunch with him, but yeah, Mizzou, South Carolina. It is at 6 p.m. this Saturday on ESPN. So not streaming. You can thank your lucky stars. It's actually on a network this time. 6 p.m. on ESPN on Saturday. The breakdown, FanDuel has Mizzou as 9.5-point favorites. You can take the money line on the Tigers at minus 330. The over-under is 48.5. We'll get into score predictions right before we kick it to our interview with Rixon. He gave a pick as well. The over-under for Mizzou first half points, 14.5. The over-under for their total points for the game, 29.5. If you want to bet the defense to be an anytime touchdown scorer, it's plus 490, which I think actually might have been better odds than when I looked at it for Kansas, which is just kind of funny. Mizzou to score every quarter is plus 140. And if you're a South Carolina fan watching this and want to bet on Mizzou not to score a touchdown, they are plus 3,500. And a parlay I looked at that I enjoyed, Mizzou to win in the under is plus 200. I think it's kind of interesting depending on LaNorris Sellers with South Carolina and if he can't play, if they maybe don't score as many points. If you want to look at that. So that's parlay. South Carolina, I said I was going to do this, and we talked to Rixon about even more players on South Carolina to know, but I'll race through some blue chippers. LaNorris Sellers, Nick Harbor, people will know who they are. Nick Harbor, the receiver, Dylan Stewart, JR Fred, aka JR Johnson, is a linebacker. Brian Thomas Jr., not the Jacksonville Jaguars receiver, the linebacker for South Carolina. Brandon Cisse, he's leading them in like every PFF defensive category right now as a corner. Josiah Thompson's a left tackle who's a 5-star recruit. He's a true sophomore. And then Nick Barrett has 2 sacks on their defensive line. Those are my chippers. I don't know if you guys have any other names. And just quick thoughts. I will add to before you add to your quick thoughts. We got the injury report. We recorded with Rixon on Wednesday afternoon. We got the injury report. LaNorris Sellers is questionable on the official injury report heading into Saturday's game. There will be another injury report, as a reminder, on Saturday about 2 hours before kickoff. So that's an important factor. What are your boys' thoughts on this game? Things to watch for briefly, and then we'll pick our scores.
Yeah, I think it's a game Mizzou has to have. I don't think there's any way to really negotiate it. It's a game that, like I'll say in the interview with Rixon, I mean, I thought 100% this was one of the 2 or 3 hardest games on the schedule coming into the year. I think it's now arguably the easiest one in SEC play you have on paper. Maybe Arkansas in there, but Taylon Green is kind of a dynamic player as well. They certainly I don't think are a pushover this year. But I mean, that line has moved down a bit because I think now it is expected that LaNorris Sellers will play. I still think it's a game with LaNorris Sellers. I think Missouri should still win. I think they should win handily. I don't think it'll be a blowout if Sellers plays. I do think Sellers is that good. I do think he is the most talented quarterback in the country when he's right. But again, I think Missouri will probably win this game pretty handily. I don't know if you want me to wait on giving my score prediction, but I do think Missouri wins it.
No, I will get some other quick, recycled thoughts, because it is interesting. You two both picked this as a loss, which I was going to maybe offer. Do we want to 3 weeks into the season before we get into the SEC games change any of our win-loss predictions? But maybe we make each other stick with it. I don't know if you guys want to swap. I'd give you that option.
Oh, I was going to swap it no matter what.
Yeah,
I was going to. I was going to say this is a win for Missouri. I really liked just the interview that we did and just kind of hearing more so like the behind the scenes from South Carolina, because in our minds, like Payton said, like we were pretty high on the South Carolina team coming into the year, but they've shown that they're human. They've shown that their defense, is still trying to find its footing after losing some key players from last year, and it extends throughout the linebacker room and into the secondary. So still a very talented team, but still a team that isn't the same exact one that, gave Missouri fits at certain points last year, especially on offense and defense. I was looking back at mine that I made in the beginning of the year just on Mizzou today. I had this pegged as a 31-27 loss for Missouri, first loss of the season. But I think this is a win in Missouri's favor, and I still think it's still going to be a one-score game in my mind, just because this, like I said in the interview, this is Beau Pribula's first SEC game. That's something that really jumps out in my mind. Yes, he's played, Big Ten defenses before, but playing an SEC defense is a big deal as well. And I'm very intrigued to see how he kind of adjusts early on, because when he played a Big 12 defense, he showed some lapses, especially with that fumble. But after that, he really locked in. I think that's something that speaks to the character of Beau Pribula.
Okay, so quickly, what's the swap for you two then? Unless Payton, you want to just keep it, and if Mizzou wins, take the L on the prediction. But if you two want to swap it, what game are you swapping this loss for?
Oh man, I don't remember if I had Auburn as a loss before.
You did not. You had I think you.
If I had to swap, I'd probably say that one.
You might have, because you had I forgot you had them at 8 and 4. So you had Alabama, A&M, Oklahoma, and Carolina were your 4. So you did not have Auburn as a loss.
Then I might swap that one if I had to swap right now. I do think it's more likely they finish 9 and 3 than 8 and 4 at this point, but I can still swap. I'll take the swap for now. I'll take Auburn as a loss now.
I'm doing the same. I was looking through mine. I had a win over Texas A&M, lost to Oklahoma, lost to South Carolina, lost to Alabama. I think I'm going to flip that one with Auburn right now. Auburn's playing better than we expected. I mean, that's something that you could say.
Just a hard place to play, too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a hard place to play. And Drinkwitz even mentioned it. He mentioned it in one of his press conferences. Like, have you ever played at Auburn? So
yeah, let's not get you started on Auburn, though.
Auburn's a good place. Should I go down to that game? It's an away game.
It could.
Please
I'd
don't.
go with you. See our friend of the program, Adam Cole, down there. I was going to say Auburn might be playing better than you two expected, but you two are joining the bandwagon. I picked them to lose to Auburn in the preseason predictions. I had the South Carolina game as a win, and I had a loss on the Plains.
Well, last year you said they'd lose to Mississippi State. And
Okay,
Mississippi
that was then
in conference play.
He was just
that
early.
Was then. This is now.
The tough thing that comes into this one is like if Mizzou, handles South Carolina, I can say handles, 1-score game, just wins this game. They're going to beat, Tigers are going to beat Massachusetts. They go into the bye. If they somehow beat Alabama, just keep rolling with 6 wins right there. And I'm thinking maybe they're going to beat Auburn too. I have to move that probably to the Arkansas game at that point. The loss.
I would not be taking swaps if they beat Alabama.
I think we're done with swaps.
Done with swaps. Okay.
If they get through Auburn and Alabama undefeated, I think we're done with swaps. I think
if they get through Alabama unbeaten at this point, because I'll be honest, I still don't expect Mizzou to win that game. I know people are gonna keep that dream alive. I don't see that still. But I mean, if they beat Alabama, we're probably talking about bigger things than just if they're going to go 9-3.
You answered my question, which was, are we talking playoff if that happens? But we're going to take it one game at a time with this one. South Carolina, I actually still have this one very close when we get to the score predictions. I've gotten more and more worried in this game. As time has gone on weirdly. I don't know. Sometimes this weirdness can happen, but maybe it's a thing where you kind of just have to look at what's going on with Carolina and trust the surface level stuff. But the other thing I didn't point this out in the interview is, I look at South Carolina's team and weirdly for me, there's kind of a lot of parallels. I draw a little bit to Kansas. A really dynamic quarterback. Obviously, I think Sellers is more talented than Jalen Daniels. We've talked about him. People have talked about him as Heisman, maybe number 1 pick, whatever. But dynamic quarterback who can hurt you in multiple ways and win you a game by himself. Not a ton of great options at receiver, but they still have some kind of like interesting athletes. Nothing much really in the running game. Like it's some of the surface level parallels. I think that there are some that kind of exist between South Carolina and Kansas for me. But
you want to keep going. Bird teams.
There you go. Maine bird.
There you go, Jack.
That's that's kind of how I felt about the Kansas game. I think top to bottom, Missouri is the better team, but LaNorris Sellers is probably at his peak the best player on the field. Maybe you could argue Ahmad Hardy, Damon Wilson. I think South Carolina is a worse team, but might have the best player when everyone is playing at the peak of their powers. But we'll have to see. I mean, LaNorris Sellers, even if he plays, he's coming off an injury of some sort. So,
yeah. So we'll see. All right, let's make our score predictions and we'll get into the interview with Rixon. We talked a ton more about South Carolina with him. Would you guys like to guess on FanDuel what the exact score with the best odds is, or would you like to make your score picks first? Because I do just enjoy looking at how long shot all of these are.
Let Payton and I pick our scores, and then you tell us whoever got closer. How about that?
I will write down the odds for each one. I have mine ready if you want me to go first. I could
go first. Go ahead.
Okay. I do still have this close. I think, if I'm somewhat gambling on the chance of maybe LaNorris Sellers is a little dinged up, or if he's not, at 100%. For some reason, I think this could turn into a low scoring game if some weirdness happens there. So I went actually for a 1-score game. I went for a 4-point win for Mizzou. I have this one really close. I don't know. I'm going to be more modest right now until I see, like Kenny said, Bo Prabula really prove it against an SEC team. And I think Mizzou, I would hope this is kind of the minimum in terms of how close this is. I got 24-20 Missouri over South Carolina, which is plus 12,500 on the old FanDuel if you want to bet that exact score.
I'll go next. I'm going to do what I try not to do, and that's be pretty bullish on Mizzou here. I did that last year, and A&M won by I'm not even counting that last field goal, so whatever the score was before the field goal. I'll go ahead and say Missouri wins by 2 possessions here. I think they keep South Carolina. I do agree. I think it'll be lower scoring for a lot of the game before Missouri kind of pulls away later. I think they hold Arkansas. I think they hold South Carolina below 20. I think Damon Wilson is a pressure machine and has 2 sacks.
Ooh.
I think they completely bottle up South Carolina's run game. They keep Sellers in the pocket. I think Missouri wins this game 28 to 17, I'll say.
28 to 17. Okay. Kenny?
Originally in the preseason, I pegged this game at 31 to 27 in favor of South Carolina. Walked that back a little bit on the Mizzou Today show on Wednesday, and I said 31 to 23 in favor of Missouri. Where I really want to go with this one, and I'm very interested to see it, is that I feel like Ahmad Hardy has bested a lot of expectations already, which is somehow crazy to think he's in conversations already for, Doak Walker very early on. Running back award lists and different things like that. Names getting thrown out nationally. It's a very interesting case already for a guy who's only in his first year in the SEC as a sophomore. I'm very intrigued to see how he plays up against the defense, in the SEC. He's done it before when he faced Texas and Auburn, but Payton pointed out maybe those numbers weren't as good as some of those other teams that he faced. So I'm interested to see how he does that with an offensive line that's performed a little bit better these last 2 weeks than in week 1 against Central Arkansas. So that's where my eyes are really going to get fixated at the beginning of the game. But I really don't think you want this one coming down to a kick. That's happened before for Missouri against South Carolina in a pretty big win back in the mid-2010s. And I don't think you want to have that again for a very unexperienced kicker, Robbie Meyer. But I think this will come down to probably an 8-point game, but still a 1-point game or a 1-score game in favor of Missouri.
What's the score going to be?
He said
31-23.
Oh, 31-20. I don't know why
Yeah.
I didn't catch. Don't
Who
know why
is
I didn't
everyone's game MVPs?
Well, sounds like you're going with Damon Wilson, Payton.
I'm not. I'm going
Oh,
Ahmad
no.
Hardy.
31 to 20. You're going Ahmad Hardy.
Because I think I pick Prbula every game.
Part of me wants to pick someone on defense if they can get to Sellers. Maybe I'll go with Damon Wilson. Payton made a good argument, but I will go. I feel like the game to pick Brett Norfleet was last week. What if I go? You had the big Ahmad Hardy game last week. What if I go Jamal Roberts? Hedge Payton. One of the running backs will be the game.
Sure.
I might change
Thanks
that. Kenny,
for that.
Kenny,
that won't hit.
Who are you picking? I'm also looking for Kenny's odds on Kenny's score.
When you think of that game last year under the lights against Oklahoma on defense, who's the first guy that comes to mind in those big moments?
Zion Young.
I think this is a Zion Young game. I do like your idea, Payton, that someone on that defensive end or at the joker spot will have a big game and a bunch of pressures. I think Zion Young will make an impact play in this game that will be kind of remembered if Missouri comes away with a win.
All right, that co-convinced me. I'm going Damon Wilson. I'm picking Damon Wilson for mine. So who do you think has more likely better odds on FanDuel with their score? I have them down.
I'm gonna go Payton.
It is Payton. My score actually has the best odds, plus 12,500. Payton is 15,000. Kenny is 17,500 on the odds. If you want the best exact score, correct score, I just love finding this in the trenches of the odds. Oh no, and I lost it. There it is. 31 to 17 had the best odds for a correct score pick. 31-17 Mizzou. There you go. Let's get to our interview with Rixon Lane. Great conversation with him. We dove more deep into the South Carolina game, looking ahead to Missouri's first SEC game of the season. So we'll get you that, and then quick hits to end the program.
And now for something completely different.
Okay, we now welcome on a very special guest, a colleague of ours over on the Bleav Network. It is Rixon Lane. He runs Bleav in South Carolina. Great podcast, Rixon. I went over and listened to your Vanderbilt recap episode. He is a South Carolina alum as well. So first and foremost, Rixon, thanks so much for taking the time. Obviously previewing the South Carolina Mizzou game. The Mayor's Cup will be a very interesting one in Columbia West, as you called it, Columbia, Missouri, there on Saturday. And I do want to start, Rixon, with I think the first place to go is obviously with South Carolina is the quarterback situation. But I'll give you a light one to start out. And I asked you it off air. Obviously, a harsh loss to Vanderbilt. You lose LaNorris Sellers to start or at the end of that first half. Did you think they deserved to go out of the top 25 for that? And just kind of give us your synopsis of maybe that game and where South Carolina kind of stands now, as a whole heading into this Missouri game.
Well, first of all, guys, appreciate the invite. Really excited to be talking with you guys. But before I answer that, I do want to offer an apology to you guys and all the Missouri fans for taking game day away from you. I know that I hope I'm not spilling the beans here, but actually and I'm speaking for the whole program as an alum, we actually got together after the 2014 game when y'all came to Columbia East and beat us in front of College Game Day. And we said, you know what we should do? We should wait 11 years until we're both ranked, and then we should have the biggest face plant we've had in maybe 4 decades right before their game so that they don't get to have College Game Day and extend the streak for to year 15 or whatever it's in now. So sorry about that.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but you know what? I appreciate that apology on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a long con. I'm not going to deny that. We definitely played a long game with it, but the payoff was worth it. I think we can all agree on that.
I'm so glad.
As far as the game on Saturday, I mean, it was odd in a vacuum maybe to see the 11th ranked team in the country fall out of the top 25 unless you watch them play the first 3 games of the year. And South Carolina, yeah, they're 2-1. Eye to eye with a demonstrably terrible Virginia Tech team for 3 quarters of that game. Played with their food way longer than they should have against South Carolina State. And then got dog walked by Vanderbilt at home. And Vanderbilt obviously is not the Vanderbilt of old, but still the worst loss for South Carolina as a ranked team against an unranked team since 1988. It was awful any way you slice it, even without your starting quarterback, which obviously didn't help matters. But, yeah, I was not shocked that they fell all the way out of the top 25. I think that they can easily work themselves back into contention if they start to look like the team people thought they would be when the season started. But 3 weeks in the year, we have no evidence that they will be that team.
And when you talk about that too, just on how this team has kind of looked this year, I mean, for 3 of us coming into the year, we've kind of mopped this up probably as a loss for Missouri. We thought it maybe be close. South Carolina would edge it out. There's been some problems facing a dual threat quarterback like LaNorris Sellers before for this defense. But what's really going wrong maybe from this team compared to last year? Like what's different in the offense? What's different in the defense that just hasn't been figured out just yet?
Defensively, before Vanderbilt, the defense looked really good. The defense, and obviously, like you said, we know Virginia Tech's not good, but the South Carolina really held them down in that game, never let them really threaten in that game. They never were really threatened in South Carolina State. Vanderbilt game, they just forgot to tackle. And that has not been a problem with Clayton White as the defensive coordinator. So that was odd and disconcerting to see against Vanderbilt. South Carolina actually outgained Vanderbilt in that game. Like as terrible as Carolina looked on offense, they gained 5 more yards and ran the same number of plays. Vanderbilt just held the ball for 35 minutes. South Carolina never got the football. But as far as the offense, coming into this year, there was concern among many people about South Carolina's receiving core. They signed, I think, 6 freshman wide receivers coming into this year. They didn't go get anybody in the portal. They lost a bunch of dudes from last year. The number 1 guy in that core was supposed to be Nick Harbor, who up until this year had just been running wind sprints for 2 years because he was a track guy. They finally got him looking more like a college wide receiver in the Vanderbilt game. I thought he was poised to have maybe one of his best games, and then he lost his quarterback and things kind of got derailed. But South Carolina has had issues up front. They haven't been able to create a lot of running lanes. They did lose a really good running back in Rocket Sanders last year. Oscar Attaway is a good back. He's not quite to that caliber. Rasul Faison finally looked like what we were told he was going to look like when he came from Utah State. But the running game hasn't been there. LaNorris Sellers has been a non-factor in the run game, which is shocking compared to what he was doing at the back half of last year. The reality is, guys, the offense doesn't look that different from what it did at parts last year. Like, people forget because they won 6 games in a row. Carolina was not lighting people up offensively. They won that Clemson game with 17 points. They scored 17 in the bowl game. The only game where they really lit up the board was Missouri and Wofford when they scored 49 or 52, I think. They've not been this big dynamic offense. It's looked dynamic on the highlight plays, but they're not making highlight plays this year. So that's really been the issue. So, from my standpoint, it's going to be really interesting to see if Sellers goes. Do they get him more involved? Because Shane Beamer came out this week in his press conference and basically said there's no conspiracy to not run LaNorris Sellers, to which my question would be, okay, then why aren't you running him? Because, I think he's averaging 1.8 yards per carry in his last 4 games, which for a dude who's 6'4", 250 and runs like a deer should be physically impossible, and yet it's happening.
I wanted to stick with the offense there because, I mean, like Kenny said, coming into the year, this was a game that I honestly thought was one or two of the hardest on Mizzou's schedule. Just because I thought South Carolina would be a college football playoff team. I don't know if we said it on the show, but my Heisman pick was LaNorris Sellers, just because the end of last year was so good. And I know the offensive side of the ball had a coordinator change. Dowell Loggins gets the head coaching job at App State. And Mike Shula comes in. And now, like you mentioned, it's kind of just, it almost seems just like totally out of sync right now. Sellers has not been, I think, what we expected. He hasn't made plays with his legs, which I know a lot of Mizzou fans are going to have nightmares about from last year's game. So I'm just kind of curious, like, if you had to, like, you mentioned the not running Sellers part, but I mean, a lot of people have kind of pointed the blame at Shula as a play caller. I mean, what have your thoughts been on him and kind of what's plagued the offense most so far?
Yeah, and to be fair, last year when the offense was struggling, they blamed Dowell Loggins, and before that they blamed Marcus Satterfield, and then when Carolina scored 1,000 points against Tennessee, they said, well, Marcus Satterfield isn't calling plays. Who knows? I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know what the intricacies are of the play calling operation at Carolina because it's been dissected to death for the last couple of years. I do think that it's interesting that if you go back and look at the opening drives for South Carolina in the Virginia Tech game and the Vanderbilt game, where they move the ball like a hot knife through butter, and they do it with tempo, they do it with RPO, they do it with getting Sellers out of the pocket. They love that little leak play where they bring the tight end across the formation, and Sellers can either hand it, tuck it, or dump it off. And they tore Virginia Tech up with that play 6 or 7 times. That's how they've moved the ball with a good balance of run pass, those types of plays on the opening drives. And they've gone down and they've scored easily. And then it's like they just have stopped doing it. So I don't know if they need to script the whole game. I don't know if maybe, I don't know what has been the disconnect there, but it just hasn't looked in sync. The other problem has been South Carolina's offensive line had really struggled in the run game and in pass protection. They fixed both those things to an extent against Vanderbilt. When I say fixed, they had their best game of the year, I thought, except they committed 1,000 false start penalties, which to see them create so many offensive yards and then have them negated through the legal system was really disappointing. So offensively, again, it just seems like Sellers isn't in sync. He's still not where I think he needs to be as a passer. He still misses some layups now and then that you can't miss as a second-year starter, especially in the SEC. But it doesn't seem like they're utilizing the dynamic playmakers they've got in ways that is going to be most advantageous for their offense. Mazeo Bennett, one of the wide receivers at the beginning of last year, was a revelation. And he has been completely non-existent since the back half of last season and into this year. I didn't hear his name called in the Vanderbilt game until the fourth quarter. Jared Brown, who's just a quick, twitchy, explosive, possible playmaker out on the perimeter, they brought in from the portal from Coastal Carolina, who had a touchdown in the Missouri game, a big touchdown. I don't know if I've seen him catch a ball this year. Like, it's really strange that some guys that you thought, okay, for a depleted wide receiver room, these guys have to step up, and they're not only are they not on getting stats, they're not on the field for a majority of the game. So again, I know that Shane Beamer talked a lot this week about practice matters, and they're putting the guys out there that are most consistent during the week, and I'm sure they are. I'm not out there. But at a certain point, I feel like you've got to find a way to get some of these dudes who have proven to be playmakers. You got to let them go make some plays, because at South Carolina And at any program, but especially in the SEC, and you guys know this, you lose 3 games, that's not getting you in the playoff. Carolina learned that last year. 9-3 ain't good enough. And with their schedule, it's hard to think that 9-3 is attainable the way they've looked through the first 3 games of the season. So I think they're at a real inflection point come Saturday night.
I do want to ask, and I kind of answered this question in part when I listened to your Vanderbilt recap, kind of about the quarterback situation with Sellers. Obviously, there's been some reports that they're optimistic he's going to play. I think when we look at this game, we're going to assume on the Missouri side that he is going to play, and that Missouri will face LaNorris Sellers, but they obviously have an interesting backup in Luke Doty, who's been at the program for forever. But you pointed this out. I think South Carolina's 1-9 in games where he threw a pass, I think is the stat you brought up. I know he spent time in the wide receiver room. You mentioned Aaron Noland, who the transfer from Ohio State, young kid. And you even said, you don't want to see Luke Doty on the field. It should be somebody else. Is that, kind of your feeling? And where, I guess, do you rate South Carolina's chances against this Missouri team if Sellers can't go for an extended portion of the game?
Well, I have to give my Luke Doty prerequisite apology because South Carolina's developed a weird habit of bringing in star high school quarterbacks, not playing them at quarterback, but then they stay for 7 years in school. And so every time you say something that's not praised of them, you have to point out that they're great ambassadors for the program. And they are. Dak Joyner was that way. Luke Doty was that way. But they're not SEC caliber quarterbacks. Luke Doty, like you said, he's 1-9 in SEC games when he throws a pass, and they weren't all garbage time. Like he ain't it, and he's not going to leave next year to go to another school. He's going to leave because he's 41 years old and he has to go get a job. But Aaron Noland might go somewhere else. Cutter Woods, who was dissecting high school defenses last year. I think in the state championship last year, Cutter Woods threw 7 touchdowns and lost, which says a whole lot about his defense. But you've got dudes in that room that I think are capable of at least giving you something in that offense. And, there's a reason Luke Doty was moonlighting as a wide receiver and a kickoff returner because they didn't think he was going to contribute at quarterback. So if the question is, what are South Carolina's chances of beating Missouri without LaNorris Sellers? I mean, without LaNorris Sellers at quarterback, I think the odds are about as good as them beating Missouri with me at quarterback. I mean, I guess it's technically possible, but I wouldn't put money down on it.
Well, I don't know, what kind of archetype are you? Can you run? Because Missouri struggles against it.
I mean, what's a pocket passer, but you're not accurate? What would that be called? Because I sure as heck ain't a mobile quarterback. I can tell you that much.
Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, guy that like a lot of people know and probably want to hear about too is Dylan Stewart. He's going to play on Saturday the full game. Didn't get knocked out for the first half after getting kicked out of the last game. Can you kind of talk about just like what you've seen from the first 3 games from him? I know he didn't get to finish that full game against Vanderbilt, but is he kind of living up to expectations so far?
I think that he is as disruptive as he can be at a defensive end spot. He reminds me a lot of when Jadeveon Clowney was in school. And I'm not saying they're the same caliber player because I don't think he's there. But I remember because Jadeveon Clowney and I were in school at the same time. And when Clowney was a junior, his entire junior year, people lost their minds because he didn't have 8 tackles a game and 3 sacks. And I remember trying to tell the guys, like, that's not possible. Like, everyone is game planning to keep him out of the game. That's why he's effective, because he's drawing 2 and 3 blockers every snap. And Dylan Stewart is getting similar attention. So his numbers, I know that, he probably doesn't grade super highly on Pro Football Focus as some of these other linemen, but I think he impacts the game incredibly well because he frees up guys like Brian Thomas Jr. to be able to get one-on-one matchups on the other side of the field because they're not game planning to stop him. They're game planning to keep 6 from wrecking their backfields. So I think that Stewart has kind of grown into that role a little bit. I imagine he is very frustrated by the fact that he is the focal point of many offensive game plans. And I think that frustration comes out in inopportune times, like last year at Ole Miss, like the end of the Vanderbilt game. but he is a true sophomore, so he's still young. So that I kind of can give him a little bit of grace on that. I think that he's still capable of really putting an offense behind the 8 ball, and they're going to need him to win a bunch of battles on Saturday, or at least command enough attention where other guys can, because if they don't, I'm really excited for a team that forgot how to tackle last week to get to play against Ahmad Hardy, who ran for, I think this number's correct, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he ran for, 870 yards last week? I may be slightly off on that, but really looking forward to watching him get a crack at a defense that was being torn to shreds last week by Vanderbilt.
I mean, sticking with the defensive side of the ball for South Carolina, I mean, it's a defense that actually lost quite a bit from last year. Kennard out the door, Emin Wari out the door, O'Donnell Fortune, TJ Sanders, just to name a few. You mentioned, like, up until the Vanderbilt game, you had been pretty happy with what you'd seen from the defense, albeit against maybe weaker caliber opponents. I mean, who are some guys on this defense outside of Stewart? And I know you mentioned Thomas a little. That maybe Mizzou should keep an eye out for.
Yeah, and Carolina was pretty depleted defensively. All the guys you just named were big impact players, and you didn't mention any of the linebackers they lost. They lost Van Martin Scott and Debo Williams and Demetrius Knight Jr. off that linebacking core last year, and all 3 of those dudes were big-time contributors. That's been the group that I think I've been the most pleasantly surprised with. Just considering how many guys they had to replace. J.R. Johnson, I think his legal name is Fred Johnson, but J.R. is such a better name.
Wait, tell people how to spell it.
J-A-Y capital R.
Oh, my gosh.
Capitalize the R.
That's awesome.
It's a phenomenal. And here's the deal. If you're going to be named J-A-Y capital R, you better be a ball player.
Right.
He is an athletic freak, man. The Virginia Tech game was kind of his coming out party, and people saw him make some plays last year, but he's a really, really talented linebacker. I think he's going to play for a long time at the next level. I've been happy with what they've seen from their linebacking core aside from last week. Like I mentioned, Brian Thomas has done good things on the other side of Kennard. Judge Collier is a really talented dude in the back end that they have not had available for a good part of the season because of injury. I think they're hoping to get him back for the Missouri game, and they'll need him for that game. So we'll see if he can go. So they've had some guys that have really kind of stepped up and really helped them out in the first couple of weeks when their offense wasn't scoring and they needed to get stops and win the field position battle and things like that. And the other thing to keep in mind with Carolina, and I know they're in an unfathomable drought, guys. They've gone now. It'll be, by my count, it's been about 12 days since they returned to punt for a touchdown, which is staggering because Bakari Swain, the backup punt returner, I should know, he's not the starter. They threw him in at the Virginia Tech game because the starter got hurt, and all he did was through the first 2 weeks, he tied the school's single season record for punt return touchdowns. He's got 3 through 3 games.
Oh, my goodness.
He's been a revelation at punt returner. So if Carolina can manage to get some stops defensively, he's proven that he can flip a game on its head for them in the special teams game, and that's kind of always been Beamer's MO anyway. So he's another one to just keep an eye. Maybe don't go to the bathroom if Missouri's punting. You might see something exciting on 4th down.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because this has been an ongoing conversation on our podcast. Eric Link is a special teams coordinator from Missouri, and it's been a rough go. Like, I think that's the nicest way to put it. These last couple of years, they got a rule changed in the SEC at one point. So you telling us that is probably not going to really. I mean, Payton's going to be upset. I think that's
not,
all.
Not a good development to have heard that. Is all I'll leave that at.
Missouri's punter did not win the job at Stanford, and as a reward, got to go to an SEC program and become their starting punter. So, there's
Beamer ball versus Link ball is a bit of a mismatch, I'd say.
Yeah, a bit of a mismatch. It's like when Alabama played Cincinnati. I'm a little sad. Speaking of, you didn't mention my guy Justin Okoronkwo at linebacker too. I totally forgot he went there. He's
only because I forgot his name.
He's good. I covered the University of Alabama for a little bit while he was there as a true freshman, and he had 12 tackles in the spring game, and he became a bit of a legend on their bench. Everyone was like, "Where is this guy? He should play more." So that's I'm glad he's doing well. You've obviously mentioned a ton of stuff on both sides of the ball. I just kind of want you to pick one for South Carolina when you look at Missouri as well. Where do you think the Gamecocks, with or without Sellers, for how long or for how little they have him in, where do you think they have maybe the biggest edge on Saturday when you look at Missouri as well and some of their weaknesses?
Man, that's
the loaded one. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, again, coming off a week where they did not appear to have a single advantage. I think that for South Carolina, the advantage would come. I think it would come on special teams, barring if that sounds like a cop-out answer. I think a runner-up would probably be what South Carolina's front seven are capable of in terms of generating pressure. I will freely admit I don't know what Missouri's offensive line has looked like through this year, but I've seen the numbers they've put up. It appears they're doing okay.
It's all right.
But I do think that they're going to face the best front seven they've seen so far this year. I think I could say that pretty confidently on Saturday. Now, does that how will they handle them? They very easily could, because Vanderbilt was able to move the ball when they had to. Again, Vanderbilt did not shred Carolina. Vanderbilt gained 323 yards of offense. They had the ball. They ran the play clock down to 5 on every offensive snap, and Carolina only got like 4 drives in the first half, and they weren't good, and the game got away from them. But I think that if Missouri's offensive line can provide enough to keep Carolina honest in defending the ground game, and keep Pribula upright long enough for him to be able to go down the field, Carolina's defensive backs have had some struggles this year. Virginia Tech, for all their troubles offensively, they won a bunch of 50-50 balls against those defensive backs in one-on-one situations. And then it happened again in South Carolina State, and it happened again at Vanderbilt. So it's become a bit of a concern about how Carolina can defend in man-to-man, one-on-one down the field. If Pribula can take those shots, I think Missouri's got to like their chances, because Missouri's always got good talent out on the perimeter. But if Carolina's front seven causes them problems and gets them behind the sticks, then I think Carolina's got a chance to stay in this game, and hopefully allow Sellers and the offense to get on track. But if Sellers isn't going, if Carolina can't generate some issues and cause problems for Missouri's front seven, it could get late early for the Gamecocks.
Sure.
For as comparable as I thought Missouri and South Carolina were last year, like two teams really on the bubble, trying to make that college football playoff, and really one win away probably on both sides. In reference to just like Drinkwitz, I feel like he and Beamer have very opposite track records so far. Beamer kind of got right out of the gate, 7 wins, 8 wins, won the Mayo Bowl, lost the Gator. I mean, what are kind of the expectations just this year and kind of moving forward for Beamer with a guy who has a good track record, of course, his dad as well. And, you lose last year in the Citrus Bowl, like you mentioned, you didn't score many points. What are South Carolina fans really expecting from Beamer this year and then just moving forward?
It depends on which South Carolina fans you're talking to, because there's the contingent that thinks South Carolina should be in the playoff this year. There's the contingent that looked at the schedule and thought South Carolina could be really, really good this year and go 6-6. That's the group that I fell into. And that was before I'd seen Carolina play. I thought, this team could be a really talented team, and I think they are a really talented team, and they might win 7 games. Like, this might look like a step backward from where they were. And again, we're a quarter of the way through the season. I think that my take on Shane Beamer is that he's had this job now for 4+ years, and they've really only had one down year. They had a bad 2003 where they were coming off a very similar year to what they did last year, where they closed the season red hot. They beat Tennessee handily. They went to Clemson and won. They looked like a really good team, and then they took a big step back in 2023 ironically, in part because the offensive line really struggled, and they went 5-7 with Spencer Rattler at quarterback, which shouldn't be possible, but they managed to do it. The vibes right now might seem to be trending that way a little bit. I think they're better than that. I don't think that the wheels will fall off quite that much, but it's possible with the way that the back half of their schedule is awful. And there was talk about in the preseason, Carolina could be 5-0 going into the LSU game. Well, that's not going to happen now, obviously. And now you've got a Missouri game that looks way less winnable than it did before the season started. Carolina could go into that LSU game, 3-2, which is not what people thought they were going to be looking at. So, but having said all that, I think that the people who understand and have followed the program know that they finally got a dude that really wants to be there. Like Shane Beamer does some stuff that kind of makes me scratch my head at times, but that dude really wants to be in Columbia. He's not, people keep talking about going to Virginia Tech. I would be shocked if Shane Beamer left South Carolina on his own to go to another FBS program. I think he's exactly where he wants to be. He's from the state. His dad coached in the state. He was an assistant under Spurrier when they were rolling. I think that he's got a chance to be there long-term and have a lot of success relative to where that program has been and possibly have more success than that program's seen in a really long time. So I think that the expectations for him are really good. But it is interesting. You mentioned that what Eli Drinkwitz has got Missouri doing now, based on where they started, is incredibly impressive. And it's really impressive to see a man, and I don't mean this disrespectfully because he's an incredible football coach, and I'm much better one than I am, obviously. It's incredible to see a man who's so swaggerless be able to deliver so much to a college football program. Losing to Eli Drinkwitz hurt so much worse than losing to Kirby Smart or Lane Kiffin because there's some G to those guys. Losing to Eli is like getting shoved in a locker by the chess club captain. Like it's doubly embarrassing when you account for who's doing it to you.
I mean, Drink admitted he was the dorkiest guy in college football like just a week ago. I actually want to kind of pivot off of that because obviously South Carolina's been in the SEC a lot longer than Missouri has. So Missouri doesn't have like a ton of natural rivalries. But South Carolina, I think, has actually probably grown into one of, you could argue, the best football rivalry they have in the SEC. There's a trophy involved in everything. And honestly, there's been some really crazy good games between these two and a lot of pretty insanely heartbreaking moments for Missouri in particular. I'm curious, obviously, South Carolina, their biggest rival is Clemson. I think in the SEC, there is something with Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. Georgia fans, or Georgia and South Carolina fans kind of, I think, beef a bit. But how do South Carolina fans view this matchup? Because I think Missouri fans do view this matchup as a legit, there's a little extra to it than just if Missouri's going to play Mississippi State or something.
I don't want to speak for all Gamecock fans. I will just say, I think that and maybe this is just me projecting, I think there are fans who get into this game, one, because of, like you said, there've been some bangers in this series. The Connor Shaw comeback is one of the greatest games I've ever seen. I think that this game has gotten really intense, partly because Missouri has kind of had Carolina's number here for a stretch, and partly because, do you know how annoying it is for Gamecock fans who have been in the SEC since 1992 and have made one SEC championship game, and they went to it, and Cam Newton beat them like they stole something from him. And then to watch Missouri just saunter into the SEC and go, oh, this Atlanta thing, this isn't hard. We can just do it in, the second year we've been here? In fact, we'll win the SEC East in one of those years where South Carolina goes 11-2. We'll win the SEC East, and we'll go to the SEC championship. So that's been annoying to watch. But I do think that it has become – look, I rolled my eyes a little bit when they started talking about the Mayor's Cup the first time they brought up. And now, dadgummit, I care about the Mayor's Cup, and I never thought that would happen.
If you're
Yeah.
just little bonus follow up with that, I mean, obviously the SEC is going to have the 3 permanent rivals for each team. Would Missouri be one of South Carolina's if you had the pick?
If I had to pick, no, Missouri wouldn't be one of them. I would like to have Kentucky. I would like to have Mississippi State. I would like for them to bring Florida Atlantic into the SEC.
I was going to say, such a good theme here. I'm sensing a theme here.
Historic rivals for South Carolina. Those are the 3 that I really would get charged up. I think seriously, if you were picking the 3 that Carolina fans would care the most about beating, I think you would go Georgia. I think you'd go Tennessee. And I think, honestly, it's a toss-up between Florida and Missouri. The Florida thing is mostly just because of how long those teams have been playing each other. And, you had the Spurrier connection for a while. But I'm telling you, man, this Missouri-Carolina series has gotten feisty. And, I thought we were going to be looking at, I thought this was going to become something kind of like the civil conflict where you've got a trophy and both teams are like, we don't really care about the trophy. This is stupid. But it has not gone that way at all. It's become a really fun series, and gosh, I hope it's still fun after Saturday night.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Rixon, this has been awesome. We appreciate you taking the time. I am going to put you on the spot. Last thing, quick score prediction for Saturday's game.
I am going to go Missouri 27, Carolina 21 with LaNorris Sellers, 27-6 without him.
Okay.
That's fair.
Good. I like the caveat. With or without. Yeah, we'll keep monitoring his status. I know, we're recording this on Wednesday. We'll get the formal injury report because I know Beamer didn't comment on him. But we'll see.
Just keep in mind too. We can't rule out that they might be pulling a Missouri last year where all week it was, we don't know. Brady Cook, his arm's about to fall off.
Yeah.
He's going to play. And 400 yards later, he looked pretty dang healthy.
Yeah, they have done that. They have done that. Every team's managed to skirt that. I do have one quick one for you. How big of a South Carolina basketball fan are you? Or is it mostly football?
Oh, huge South Carolina women's basketball fan.
Okay.
Do they have a men's program too?
No, not at all. That doesn't exist, actually. That I won't ask my follow-up because I am a Lamont Paris enjoyer. I have a past connection to him, so I was going to ask, but maybe I shouldn't.
Truly, though, I like Lamont Paris. I think that people have gotten a little unreasonable about his job security. It's a really hard program to build. Frank Martin got run out of there after taking them to a Final Four. Carolina basketball is a lot like Carolina football. They can't stand prosperity. They build and build and build and get to something, and then 2 years later you go, oh, that team went to a Final Four? Never would have known. That's kind of been the story there. So I like Lamont. I hope he's there for a long time. I hope he wins a bunch of games.
He's a good guy. You had top 10 pick last year. Top 10 pick.
A lot of good that did.
And had what to show for it. That's
Exactly.
been the problem forever.
Fair enough. Well, once again, Rixon, we appreciate you taking the time. Check out Bleav in South Carolina. You can listen to 2 recap pods. Listen to Rixon's after the game. Listen to ours. No matter how the game goes. We're all one network. That's the company line, right? That's
there you go.
Well, Rixon, we appreciate it. Thanks again.
Had a blast,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you all.
Okay, quick hits time. We'll finish out the show. We have jerseys of the week for the Friday quick hits. Going to be a real variety in our selection of jerseys, I think, this week. So let's get into it. Kenny, what's your jersey of the week? Or Payton, whoever goes first. Kenny.
It's me.
Kenny's first.
It's always been me. Jersey of the week
No, it's
goes
not
Ahmad
because
Hardy.
Never mind.
Ahmad Hardy was named the Walter Camp National Offensive Player of the Week. Rushed for 250 yards against Louisiana. And I think, Payton, you have something to build off this one.
Yes, I do, Kenny, because my jersey of the week is going to be Ahmad Hardy, who was the Doak Walker player of the week. He had 250 yards and 3 touchdowns against Louisiana. And Jack, I think you have something to build off of this one.
I do, folks. My jersey of the week is going to go to Ahmad Hardy, who had 250 yards and 3 touchdowns against Louisiana. He kind of got spotlighted by John Gruden, which I know in a vacuum isn't the coolest thing in the world. But what I really enjoyed about it was that he like specifically shouted out Curtis Looper for being like a great recruiter and coach. And I always appreciate when some of these national people like give some love to the position coaches. So it's more of actually a jersey for Curtis Looper, and even like shouted out Looper's like college days and stuff. And so that was pretty cool. I always appreciate when, it's not just Ahmad Hardy's good at football because he has flashy stats. It's actually like, here's kind of why. So that I thought was pretty cool. All right, look at that jersey of the week. A nice uniform.
I like no cap, and he's the main bird
selection. We move swiftly on.
I'll throw one thing in there just about.
I have to play the clip again.
I have one thing to throw in there just about Curtis Looper as well. He did play in a very talented running back room at Oklahoma State that featured Barry Sanders, and they still have some kind of connection to this day. So that's a big positive for a lot of these running backs that are coming through Curtis Looper's room.
Yeah, it was a cool show.
No, I like no cap, and he's the main bird.
Okay, now anyone have any other thoughts? Otherwise, if they do, I have to play the clip
Nope.
again. All right, Shawnee's main bird of the week. Kenny.
You've seen football games in Ireland, but how about London? College football game in London. Arizona State and Kansas are in discussions to play the first ever FBS college football game in London per on threes. Brett McMurphy. This game will be at Wembley Stadium and host a Big 12 matchup on September 19, 2026 is the expected date once that's finalized. Kind of interesting because that could be before or after the Missouri game. And it looks like it would likely be before. So it'd be kind of interesting. It's after the Missouri game.
Bleav so.
I saw someone tweet that maybe this would happen before. So I think that would be interesting just to see how that kind of affects the schedule at all just next fall for those two teams. Jayhawk.
Yeah, I could be totally off base, but I don't like these games going, all these games over there. It just, is there a big 12?
Don't. Nothing.
Well, is there a Big 12 following in London?
I mean, they've played a couple over there now, or at least a couple over in Ireland.
What was the one before this year?
Georgia Tech, Florida State
which was a good game.
It was a good game.
Who did Notre Dame play? Army? Notre Dame Army or Notre Dame Navy?
Notre Dame Navy was over there, I think.
Notre Dame, Wisconsin's there next year.
Nebraska and Northwestern, that infamous one was over there.
That was bad. Yeah, that was a bad one.
It was our senior year of college too.
Yeah.
2022. I will point out you were right, Payton. This would be the expected one like the week after. It would be a week or two after.
So you don't get the jet lag Jayhawks. That would have been a good sign.
Can a bird get jet lagged?
I guess not.
It is a cool venue, I won't lie.
No, you don't like it. You don't want them to play over there. What's your main bird though?
My main bird of the week is actually going to stick with me here. So Joey Van Zoomeren, shout out to him for tweeting this quote from Tiger Talk. Eli Drinkwitz says on Tiger Talk that he believes that former Mizzou QB Brady Cook will be activated off the New York Jets practice squad to the active roster for this week's game. He's expected, this is not part of the quote, but he is expected, I think, to be the backup to Tyrod Taylor because Justin Fields suffered an injury. So Brady Cook will be the backup. It'll be his first game he's active if this all does happen. Who is he playing, you might ask? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who is on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers practice squad, you might wonder? Connor Bazelak. Connor Bazelak, of course, Kenny is pointing out that there's no quote in that post. I was quoting the X post.
But you said shout out to Joey for tweeting this quote.
It's fine. Let me rephrase. Joey summarized what Drink said in the post. Anyways, going back to what I was saying, Connor Bazelak is, of course, on the practice squad for the Buccaneers. He, of course, is a former Bowling Green State Falcon. So there's my bird connection.
You know what? I actually really enjoyed that because it's also the two Mizzou connections. I'm gonna give that one to you. That was
who
good.
was Bazelak told to take a seat for in the Armed Forces Bowl? Brady Cook. It all comes full circle.
Full circle. Shout out that infamous Armed Forces Bowl. Speaking of infamous, my main bird of the week is going to go to coaches of bird teams in college football. That's way worse than Payton's connection somehow. But I had to switch around a couple of quick hits. This was news from Wednesday. The NCAA officially passed that one-time only transfer portal in college football. So no more spring portal. It's just going to be, I Bleav the 2nd through the 11th of January is now the week to enter the portal. And they have a thing, obviously I think it's interesting. You have a guy in Bo Perbula who is very outspoken about the weirdness with the portal. He wanted to obviously wait until Penn State's season was done. I did read there is a rule in it that if your team is in the college football playoff, you have like 5 days after your team's season ends. Like if they go further than the semifinals, because I think the actual week of it is like the week of the semifinals. So there is like room for that. Kind of interesting. Obviously, if you're a coach going deep into the playoff, it makes it tough to recruit and obviously coach for a national title at the same time. But this felt pretty expected, if I'm not wrong, guys. I mean, they shortened the spring window. I think a lot of coaches were pretty complained a lot about that because it's very hard to replace guys in that spring, summertime. So interesting news will affect Mizzou's offseason. So one-time only portal. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, the spring window was also kind of like a bit less fun, I think is the best way to put it. You weren't getting a whole ton of like huge ads from there. I think Mizzou got Jalen early out of the spring window.
Gavin Hoffman.
And I don't remember many others.
Yeah.
Gavin Hoffman.
Oh, was he a spring portal? That's right. I thought he was winter.
Yeah, so it's big news in terms of the kind of calendar, but I think overall kind of expected and probably is a far better thing to Payton's point than a negative. So
Xavier Lloyd too. Did you say that name, Peter?
I think Xavier Lloyd was.
He was
might be right.
I was living here already, so that I do remember that. I remember posting it. Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, I think it'll change a couple things, but I think overall it's still going to be primarily. It was always going to primarily be winter recruiting. All right, Kenny, move on because this image is hurting my brain. Best thing you learned, Payton.
Best thing I learned this week, homecoming has a time, 6:30 p.m. It's a night game for the UMass revenge game.
Revenge
game.
UMass is looking for revenge. For Mizzou coming into their
very
crib.
Unbiased of you. I think we all kind of assumed you were talking about Mizzou.
Yeah.
No, I would never. I don't talk about Mizzou ever at all. It's on ESPNU for those that aren't going. I Bleav.
Should we announce?
Yeah, I Bleav 3/3 of the Unwritten will be in attendance for this.
They will.
How about that?
We're all going back. We'll do a fan meetup if this video gets 10,000 likes.
We won't.
Payton won't. We'll make him. How do we feel about this tire tread wallpaper, by the way, with the Tiger logo behind this?
I'm a little confused.
I'm kind of distracted. Yeah, I'm kind of distracted by it.
It's for the end zone construction. They've been their whole MO this entire year with all the graphics.
Oh, didn't know that.
I originally thought it was the moon, and I thought they were footprints.
I thought maybe it was like a reference to the homecoming parade, like with all the floats, like tire marks and whatnot. I don't know.
No, it's like gravel.
Ideas than me.
Okay, I don't really know.
I did not pay attention that they were going with a construction.
I didn't know this.
Doing that all year.
That's good to know.
See, look, they have a blueprint as a header. A lot of the stuff is like blueprint based or working in like a construction zone.
Oh, I guess they did do the photo shoot where they're all holding the like hammer.
I'm not gonna lie, Kenny. Your feelings towards uniforms are my feelings towards the social media content.
Yeah, you're right. I should just never care again.
Moving on. What's next?
What Kenny learned.
Yeah, best thing I learned. It's kind of cool. Mizzou moving forward. They'll have 18 consecutive sellouts. This is 16th with South Carolina because you have the homecoming game, like Payton just mentioned, and Alabama after that. So 18 straight. That is a big deal. And I thought this kind of was funny too. The top two replies.
Sold out?
Pretty sure, right?
Which one?
I don't know that it has yet.
Which
homecoming hasn't sold out yet?
I'm not sure that it has.
Okay. Well, that is a game that you're kind of expecting to sell out.
So I would still expect it to sell out, but I don't know if it is definitely sold out yet.
Okay. So 16 right now. They're pushing for 18 with the homecoming game and then Alabama in October. The top two replies, Yasiel Puig, Mizzou said thank you K-State.
Thank you, Kansas State.
Yep. And another one, despite their 1-3 start, K-State fans know how to pack the house. It's always kind of funny.
Wow.
I hope we keep that bit going as long as this sellout streak lasts.
I just want it to last long enough to where people forget what people are talking about when they say thank you, K-State, but just like roll with it anyway. Like that game is so long ago, becomes so long ago that we're like, why
I
are
can't
we
even
thanking
imagine how
K-State?
long a sellout streak would have to be at this point.
Yeah. It's crazy what Drinkwitz has done. It's crazy what Drinkwitz has done. My best thing I learned this week,
Kenny has the wrong thing
change
pulled
the
up.
tab. Kenny changed the tab. You have the wrong tab. You have the wrong tab.
Behind the scenes. Oh no.
My best thing I learned this week, I'm just going to basically make Kenny talk about it because it's Mizzou, South Carolina's recruits. I'm excited to, obviously the first couple games, Kansas being the exception, this hasn't been super interesting, but Kenny started doing this. Is this your second year doing this? Second season? I guess it would be. Yeah. Kenny started doing this last year with like the Mizzou and whoever Mizzou is playing as recruits. And I think it is kind of fun because obviously college football player journeys are so winding now. So that he did Mizzou, South Carolina as Mizzou. What are some of your Mizzou, South Carolina as Mizzou? Mizzou, South Carolina as recruits. What are some of your favorites, Kenny? Please make me stop talking.
There's some good ones in here. Josiah Thompson on the offensive line was a 5-star in the 2024 class, 16th overall in the on 300. That's a 98 rating on the pretty high scale on the 100 scale. Among the defensive linemen too, 5-star Dylan Stewart, who we brought up, 4-star Monkel Goodwin,
Who's right next to Dylan Stewart. Same rating and everything.
Yep, Damon Wilson, separation of only one class and then 10 spots in the on 300. So I mean, it's a very talented South Carolina team. It's one thing that really stood out to me just to wrap that up. Not too many transfers. I think that's one cool thing just about an SEC team like South Carolina. A lot of homegrown guys that they brought up, and they're already kind of contributing from the 2023, 2024 classes.
Yeah, they do keep a lot of guys. I will give them that. They tend to have decent retention there, which it is what it is. Yeah, this is fun. You're seeing Ahmad Hardy too, and given we just talked about him and just unranked, nothing is fun with Mizzou. And yeah, not a ton of high school talent in the running back room at all. 3-star Roberts, who was good, but then 2-2-stars for South Carolina in the 2019 class as well, which is insane.
Both transfers too.
Yeah.
Where did Ottaway come from?
Good question.
Coastal?
Faison is from Utah State, I know.
Was he Coastal?
He might have been.
North Texas, I think.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. All right. I just thought that was fun to note. All right. We wrap up with best beats of the week. I guess I can go first if this is a graphic for my beat. We went 2 of 3 last week. I got mine wrong. The Titans did not cover the 5.5 point spread. So I'm done picking underdogs. Instead, I'm going to pick a staggering favorite. I'm going the Buffalo Bills. They are 11.5 point favorites over the Dolphins. I thought this graphic from FanDuel was kind of fun. Over the last 20 years, the Buccaneers, Dolphins, and Jaguars are 7-26 in Buffalo. It's a little bit early. It's not that cold there in Buffalo yet, but
that is an exorbitant amount of points too, mind you.
I'm going with it. I decided I'm going to pick underdogs until they lose, and then I went a heavy favorite.
And so now you're just picking the top shelf favorite.
I sure am.
Okay.
I'm going all the way around. So I realized it's not like peak winter in Orchard Park, but I just thought the graphic was funny, so I picked it. They're playing the Dolphins, by the way. I think it's Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football. So that's my beat.
You want to go, Payton? Take yours.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'm going with the Cowboys by 1.5 over the Bears because I think the Cowboys are a better team than the Bears.
You did think the Detroit Lions were a better team than the Bears last week, and you were correct. So it's a good strategy. Are you going to keep this up the whole year, you think?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
The Bears will go 0-17. I will be taking the Texans this week, actually, instead of their opponent. Texans plus 1.5. I can't pull up the spread in front of me. Jack, is that correct? Over the Jaguars?
It is 1.5. Yeah.
That's what I'll be taking.
Plus 1.
Texans can't start 0-3 or changes will be made.
Ooh. Whoa.
I think so. 0-3 start with the expectations for this Texans
team. What would the changes be?
Maybe new quarterback.
No, there wouldn't be.
I literally just traded for CJ Stroud in a fantasy football league. If they benched
that
him,
was
I would
silly.
be. Well, I was hamstrung. It was a league with Joe Burrow. I had Joe Burrow. He got hurt. I had to do something. So they are +1.5.
Yeah. Anyways, this one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. Guys, how do you know when a bike is thinking?
Wheels are spinning.
Yep.
Oh,
I'll give that to
simple.
you. You can tell when its wheels are turning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
There you go.
That's good. All right. Thanks, Al Roker. All right, that'll do it. We will be back. We'll have a recap Saturday. I Bleav. Kenny, are you there on Saturday?
I will be at the game. I will not be on the recap.
Payton and I recap. Kenny will be on site. Go follow Mizzou Today for all of the updates during the game. That'll do it for the Unwritten Rule. Thank you again to Rixon for joining us. We will see you guys on Saturday for a recap. Bye.